It was a dark and stormy night. Or maybe it was just cloudy with a chance of drizzle? Or maybe the sun was shining. Hey, it's Miss Kelly here with the Grimes Public Library. Welcome to our Spring into Saturday with wind and weather. Today we explore your own backyard weather station that you can make with simple tools and items from around your house. Now, these items aren't perfect and the tools won't work perfectly like the meteorologists use to predict the weather, but it can be a fun adventure and to explore and to try out in your own backyard. So let's get started and see some of the simple ways we can use to predict the weather in our own backyard. So the first tools we're going to make are windsocks and weather vanes, which tell us which way the wind is blowing. This can be important because where we live, if the wind's blowing from the north, it usually means we're getting colder temperatures, and from the south means we're getting warmer temperatures. Here's how we make our windsock. First, find some old t-shirts or scrap fabric, cut it into long strips, tie them together, and then tie them up outside somewhere high where the wind can blow them, and that will help you tell which way the wind's blowing. Now, if you want to make an old-fashioned weather vane, it's pretty simple. Here are the tools you're going to need. Scissors, a plastic container with a lid, a brand new pencil, a stick pin, and a straw. You're going to poke a hole through the lid of your container carefully, probably with some adult help. Put your pencil through with the eraser on the top. Fold your straw so that you get a nice crease in it, and then take your straight pin from a sewing kit and push through the straw into the eraser on the top of your pencil. Now this is pretty tricky. You can see mine's kind of crooked, so I'm going to be working on straightening it out, but I also want to make sure that that straw is freely able to move all the way around and can spin, because when the wind blows, I want that straw to tell me which direction the wind is blowing. So that's looking pretty good. Up next, I need to make it a little bit more nicer looking. So I'm going to take some more paper. I cut out an arrow shape and taped the straw and the paper together. And I did a double-sided arrow so that it's covered from both sides. And then I realized when it goes outside, it's going to get wet if it rains. So I grabbed some clear packing tape and taped over the top of my arrow to protect it from the weather. Next up, I ran outside, grabbed some rocks, and then put my lid back on my container, and my weather vane is ready to go. The rocks are going to prevent it from blowing away. You probably notice I have a compass on the bottom of my lid. So in order to know which way the wind is blowing, we have to know which way is north. And we need a compass or a homemade compass. To make your own homemade compass, grab a magnet and a needle, and you're going to rub the magnet across the needle in one direction only, from the dull side to the point. Then tape your needle onto something that floats, like a piece of foam, and put it into a bowl of water. The needle will slowly turn on top of the water until it is pointing south, and it stops. Then opposite south will be north, and if you turn and face north, to your left is going to be west, to your right is east. Up next is our rain gauge. You're going to need an empty plastic bottle. I used a juice container, but you can use a smaller bottle, and some sharp scissors or a pocket knife, some masking tape, and a Sharpie. Also a ruler or tape measure. Cut your bottle in half, and then you're going to need some adult help with that, of course, to be safe. And make sure that you then cover the sharp edges of that cut plastic with some masking tape, just to make sure we don't have anything that could cut you. Then you're going to put the top of your bottle snugly into the bottom, and make sure you have a little space at the bottom so that you can put rocks so that, again, it doesn't blow away if there's a heavy wind. Get your Sharpie ready because we're going to use it to do some marking so we can tell how much water we get when it rains. I have a big line at the bottom, that's where my rocks are going to be, and then I'm going to start measuring in centimeters because scientists use the metric system when they make measurements for weather. And make my marks. I go out, fill the bottom with some rocks, and get that top put back into place, and we're ready to set it out. Again, we've got our windsock up atop, and down below we have our weather vane set up perfectly for the correct directions of my compass and my rain gauge, and we're ready to go outside. So now we're going to learn how to make our very own thermometer to tell temperature inside our house. This project you're going to want to keep inside. You're going to need a glass jar of food coloring, some rubbing alcohol, Play-Doh, and a straw. Dropping in equal parts rubbing alcohol and water and a few drops of food coloring so you can see the liquid. You're then going to drop your straw in and seal it tight around the lid with the Play-Doh. Mark where the liquid is in the straw at room temperature, and for us that was 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we put it in a warm bath in our sink and poured some steaming hot water over it. Carefully, using adult help, you can slowly see the temperature rising in the straw. And that's your very own thermometer. To check to see if it will go lower, put it in the fridge or the freezer and see if you can get the liquid in the straw to drop down. Next up, we're going to make a barometer. This is a tool scientists use to measure atmospheric air pressure, which can tell us a lot about weather. You're going to need an empty can, a pair of scissors, a balloon, and a piece of paper that you're going to draw a sun on the top and some rain clouds on the bottom. So you can use an empty jar or an empty can for this process. This is another tool you're going to be keeping inside your house. Taking your scissors, cut the mouthpiece off of the balloon and stretch the upper part of the balloon over the top of your can or jar, and then tape a wooden skewer or straw along the top of the balloon. Setting your piece of paper up next to it, the sun on the top and the rain on the bottom. Draw a steady line all the way across where the straw or the skewer is right now. Now, if the air pressure is high, you'll notice that your wooden skewer begins to go above that little solid line. This means good weather. And if the air pressure is low, then the skewer will drop below your solid line. And this means there could be a storm on the way. Now, for our last weather tool, you're going to need to go on a hike and grab some pine cones. Yeah, I said pine cones. Check it out. So cones come from the plants called gymnosperms, which means naked seed. And these types of plants were actually on our planet during prehistoric times. That's right, when our dinosaur friends were here. So here we have our dinosaur friends munching on a cone, and you can see it's been destroyed. And over time, these plants have evolved to create more firm and more protective, harder outer shells or coverings, because inside these cones are the seeds that will hopefully grow more plants. So it's sort of like baby plants. They're protecting their babies. And the purpose of a cone is to protect those seeds. They have this really neat mechanism where if it is wet outside and cold, the cone, the structure of the cone, the wood part of the cone will sort of get wet and moist with the humidity and swell, and it closes all of these scales up so that the cone is closed up and the seeds that are inside are protected. When it's hot and dry out, those cones will open up like this one is opened up, and you can see the seeds are inside these scales. So if I pull one of them off, like this one here, you can look on the inside. This part is the innermost part. The seeds will be right down here at the bottom. And the little winged structure, this white colored structure, that's a little paper thin wing that the wind will pick up and grab and pull and blow out and disperse the seeds to grow a new plant. So these gymnosperms are pretty cool. You can use a pine cone or a cone as a weather gauge by hanging one of these that you find in nature outside your window. And when that cone starts to close up, you know that it's very humid out and it might rain that day. And if the cone is open, like this one, then you know it's a warmer day and the air is drier. And that works on cones as even cones that have already dispersed their seeds, and old cones. It will work because of the anatomy of the cone. It's going to work all the time. Be sure to check the link in the description of the video for more ideas on exploring weather. Stormy skies or blue skies, enjoy your spring from the Grimes Public Library.